They were men who lived on the edge, who laughed in the face of danger, who sought adventure in the darkest depths of the earth, under the most grueling conditions imaginable. Their days were filled with the deafening blows of pickaxes against rock, the haunting echoes of shovels scraping earth, the ghostly silence of nights spent in damp tunnels waiting for daylight. Their bodies, bearing the marks of their labor, were dusted with grime, streaked with sweat, and often scarred with wounds from accidents or collapses. Yet despite the toll on their bodies, there was a strange camaraderie among the Navvies. In the shared risk, the hardship, and the constant threat of death, they found a bond that transcended their humble origins. It was a brotherhood forged in the fires of adversity, a testament to the indomitable spirit of man. They sang songs to pass the time and to lift their spirits, songs of love, loss, hope, and rebellion, each note carrying the weight of their dreams and fears. These songs echoed not just in the tunnels they carved, but in the very soul of the Industrial Revolution. Their music was their solace, their rebellion against the darkness that surrounded them. But within this tight-knit community, there were heroes, men who not only survived the Navvy's life, but thrived in it. Men like Thomas Telford, a giant of a man with a booming laugh and a heart as big as his biceps. He started as a simple navvy, but rose to become one of Britain's greatest civil engineers. His legacy lives on in the structures that still stand, a testament to his skill and daring. Then there was James Brindley, a man whose innovations in canal engineering forever changed the course of Britain's industrial future. His genius lay not just in his ability to navigate treacherous waterways, but in his knack for finding solutions where others saw only obstacles. There were many more like them, men who carved their names in history despite the odds stacked against them. So as we stand on the threshold of their world, remember this: the Navvy's life was one of extremes, a dangerous dance with death where each sunrise was a victory in itself. It was a life that tested the limits of human endurance, a life that demanded courage, determination, and an unbreakable spirit. But it was also a life that gave birth to legends, men who not only dug canals and tunnels, but carved their names in the very fabric of history. Now, dear friends of the United Kingdom, we have barely scratched the surface of this gripping tale. What we have done is open a window into the past, allowing you to catch a glimpse of the lives of these remarkable individuals. We have spoken of their struggles, their triumphs, their songs, and their camaraderie. But their story is like an onion, having many layers. There's so much more to explore, so much more to understand about the Navvies, the men who built the canals and tunnels of Britain. As we continue our journey through history, I encourage you to stay with us. Let their stories resonate in your hearts and their struggles echo in your minds. Remember, each like and comment is a step towards keeping their memory alive. Together, we can ensure that their sacrifices are not forgotten, their achievements are celebrated, and their stories continue to inspire generations to come. Thank you for joining me on this unforgettable journey through time. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and above all, stay inspired by the extraordinary tales of our past. We've said it before, and we'll say it again. Life as a Navvy was not easy. It was hard, dirty, dangerous work, long hours for low pay. But that last bit, the danger, that's what we want to explore in this video. Because the Navvies were not just men of mystery, they were also men of danger. Their work was among the most hazardous in the UK. Imagine standing on top of a deep shaft, 30 meters down into the earth, and being lowered into the darkness with only a rope. Now imagine digging day after day with nothing but hand tools, blasting rock without modern safety equipment, and praying the tunnel would not collapse on you. Terrifying, right? Well, this was reality for the Navvies. Take the Sapperton Tunnel, for example. This monster of a project required the construction of 26 vertical shafts, each one giving access to different sections of the tunnel. From those shafts, teams carved pilot tunnels, barely a meter square, pushing forward through the rock to meet other teams digging from different directions. In total, there were 54 different working faces pushing towards each other underground, all in the hope they would meet in the middle. If they got it wrong by even a few feet, years of labor would be wasted. But precision came at a terrible cost. Everyday accidents happened. On average, across the canal and railway projects, for Navvies were killed every single day. That is over 1,400 men a year. Now that's a lot of deaths, but to put it another way, imagine going to work every day and having a 1 in 14 chance of not coming home. That's how dangerous it was. Some were killed instantly. Falling rocks, a sudden cave-in, a crane dropping a load on your head, all could end your life in an instant. Others died more slowly, Men like James, who fell down a shaft and broke his leg, or William, who injured his back so badly he never walked again. Then there were those who disappeared altogether. Entire gangs of navvies vanished when the earth gave way and swallowed them whole. But if you survived it all, if you managed to stay out of the ambulances and off the casualty lists, well, then you might die anyway. The greatest killer of the navvies was not machinery or accidents, it was disease. Life in the camps was overcrowded and filthy. Add to that the fact that navvies tended to be younger men, meaning they had less resistance to illness than older workers, and you have a perfect storm. Pneumonia, pleurisy, bronchitis, they all tore through the navvy communities like wildfire. Alcohol made things even worse. Many navvies drank away their wages and weakened their bodies. There was even a saying at the time, you never saw an old navvy, and tragically, it was true. Of the thousands who started the Big Dig, very few lived to see it finished. Many died young, far from home, and were buried in mass graves. Some were born in the work camps and died there too, never knowing a life outside the Big Dig. As you walk around the sites today, remember, what you see is only a shadow of what once was. All around you are the ghosts of the navvy past. In the landscape, there are reminders of what they built, the canals, the railways, the bridges, the cuttings. But below the ground, there are secrets too, a hidden history of a way of life that was hard, dangerous, and short. A life that was lived and died in the shadow of the earth. Now, this topic really opens up a lot of questions about the modern world as well. What do you think? How do you think health and safety has changed since the days of the navvies? And do you think the navvies were treated fairly for the work they did? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And hey, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and check out our other videos. See you next time. So when you're wandering by a canal today, or perhaps pushing a boat along a towpath, or maybe cycling the length of a long, straight embankment, take a moment to think about those men. Do you think of them? Do you remember their names? Or have they been erased from memory, hidden behind the pride of progress? Can you imagine what it must have been like to be one of them? A nameless, faceless navvy working for almost nothing on an English canal. What would you have thought of the world you lived in? Would you have dreamed of changing it? Or would you just have dreamed of a hot meal and a dry bed? When you think about the Industrial Revolution, which came to Britain in the late 18th century and lasted until the early 20th century, you probably think about inventions and innovations, the steam engine, the cotton gin, the power loom, iron ships and iron rails. These things changed the world. They drove progress, they made fortunes, they transformed Britain and then the whole planet. But what do you think about the people who made these innovations possible? If you're thinking about factory workers or child laborers or miners, well, you're not thinking hard enough. Let me tell you about the navvies. Now, the word navvy comes from the Middle English word knave, meaning a young man who works for a living. In the 18th century, William Stukeley, a writer and antiquarian, used the term to describe the laborers who helped him survey and map Stonehenge. But it was on the canals and railways of Britain that navvies became a crucial, if largely invisible, part of the nation's workforce between 1760 and 1840. A vast network of artificial waterways crisscrossed the English landscape, linking the major cities and carrying goods and produce to market. And it was the navvies who built them. These were men who walked beside the canal with a pickaxe and a shovel, hacking at the earth and making it ready to receive the water. Life in the camps was no less brutal than life on the worksite. Navvies often lived 30 to 70 men in a single room, sometimes to a bed. Food was poor, mostly potatoes and vegetables, with meat only if they could afford it. Everything was boiled by a camp cook, no matter what it was. And yet, despite the hunger and exhaustion, they needed about 8,000 calories a day to keep going. That is the diet of an Olympic athlete, but achieved in the most miserable of ways. Evenings were spent drinking and gambling. Some men gambled away their entire wages in a single night. Others drank themselves to death. And when morning came, they went back to work, often half drunk, increasing the risks even further. Yet, for all the misery, there was also resilience. The navvies kept going. They sang songs. They created legends. They gave each other strange nicknames: Lincoln Tom, Hackney Jim, Pegleg Daniel. Some of the names made sense, some did not, but together, they built the backbone of Britain's industrial power. But here's the tragedy. The bosses and engineers were remembered. The great names of canal and railway history are honored. The tunnels, the locks, the bridges, they stand as monuments. Yet the men who built them, the men who died building them, aren't often forgotten. I think that's a terrible injustice. I think it's high time we put that right. By the 1830s and 1840s, attempts began to organize navvies into unions, fighting for better conditions. But it wasn't until 1889 that the first official navvies, bricklayers, and general laborers union formed. They wanted better pay, safer housing, and social opportunities, but strikes rarely worked. Why? Because navvies were itinerant. If one group refused to work, the bosses could simply replace them with another desperate group, and so progress continued on the blood and broken backs of countless men. That progress would change the world. It would drive the Industrial Revolution. It would make fortunes and change lives. But whose progress was it? Was it the progress of the men who risked their lives and lost their limbs and died young and nameless on the canals of England? Or was it the progress of the men in the offices and factories and workshops who took the profits and reaped the rewards? Who do you think should get the credit, and who do you think deserves our remembrance today? The Industrial Revolution swept across the United Kingdom like a tidal wave. Entire industries were transformed overnight. Inventions multiplied, factories hummed, and cities grew at a pace never seen before. Behind this dizzying change, however, lay the sweat and toil of millions, and no one suffered more than the navvies. The navvies were the navvy. No one knew exactly how to pronounce it, but everyone knew what it meant. It was a hard, dangerous job, long hours, low pay, and little respect, but it had to be done. With the arrival of the railways, the navvies were needed more than ever. Railways cut through hills, carved deep cuttings, and raised massive embankments. Whole new landscapes were created by hand. If canals were backbreaking, the railways were monumental. Tens of thousands of navvies swarmed across the UK, reshaping the land. They worked in rain, in snow, in blistering heat, and every day, more of them fell. Now I ask you one more time, do you think you could have lived their life? Could you have faced 16 hours of labor with nothing but a shovel? Could you have watched your friends die and still kept digging? Think about it carefully. To build the railway, the navvies used picks, shovels, and explosives to blast through rock and soil. They laid the tracks, the sleepers, and the ballast. They constructed the viaducts, bridges, and tunnels, and all the time, they were on the move. There was little time for rest, less time for celebration. One writer captured their toil. I know no words which can express the intense and unremitting energy which the navvy displays in his work. He is always at work, always eating, always drinking, always sleeping, always talking. His whole life is a struggle against privation and pain. The navvies lived in sheds or huts, usually without proper sanitation or ventilation. Dampness and filth were their constant companions. Disease spread quickly. Smallpox, cholera, tuberculosis claimed many victims. Life expectancy of a navvy was 35. Men, women, and children all toiled together. Some tasks required great strength. Others were more suited to nimble fingers and sharp eyes. Women and children sorted the mail, packed the gunpowder, lifted buckets, collected the tools. They worked alongside adults, often for the same low wages. As the decades passed, the work became more specialized, the workforce more skilled, but the pay remained the same, just enough to survive on. Gradually, as the big projects slowed, money ran short. The First World War shifted national priorities. By the early 1900s, however, the age of the navvies was ending. Skilled in one of the hardest jobs in history, many found themselves unemployed. The saying held true, you never saw an old navvy, but their legacy remains. Every time a train thunders through a tunnel or a canal boat glides peacefully beneath an arch, we are witnessing their work that cost thousands of lives, but built the very foundations of modern Britain. So friends, as we close this story, let me remind you, like this video, subscribe to Vault Chronicles, and press the bell icon so you never miss another journey into forgotten history. Share this video with someone who loves the UK's past, and help us keep the memory of the navvies alive. Thank you for watching. This was Rehan Hashmi, bringing you the hidden story of Britain's Industrial Revolution. Don't forget to visit our channel for more powerful stories, and follow our Facebook page for extra content and updates. I'll see you in the next video at the same time tomorrow with another incredible journey into the past. Until then, take care and never forget the men, women, and children who built the canals and railways of the United Kingdom.